When I was a younger child, I remember seeing glowing red eyes hanging in the air in my dark living room. I thought our house had werewolves or vampires. There was a phase in 3rd grade when glowing orbs would hang out in my room for several minutes at a time, which I interpreted as aliens. My child mind was trying to make sense of things, but I definitely had a fear of the dark, specifically in our house. Most places were fine in the dark, but in our house, I always felt like I was being watched by something with malicious or, at best, neutral intentions. Paranormal things ramped up for me in high school, but to remain chronological, I had a cousin stay at our house one summer while most of us were on vacation around 8th grade. My cousin Billy was helping my dad with various projects. One night, my cousin was going to bed in one bedroom, later dubbed the spooky room. Outside in the dark, he saw a figure leave our garage and enter our house. My dad, right? Billy, help me. My cousin had heard my dad shouting. Billy rushed to check on my dad. My dad had been sleeping and was irritated by Billy's presence. Billy went back to bed, only to hear it again. Billy, help. Again, cousin Billy rushed to check on my dad, who was fine and confused by Billy's urgency. Billy slept on the couch that night. I didn't learn about this until years later. A couple years later, my brother moves away to college, and I move into his old bedroom, the spooky room. It's my freshman year of high school. I was always particularly creeped out by this room, but hey, new changes are often intimidating. One morning I wake up to see a skull perfectly drawn on the dust on the window, across from where my head lies when I sleep. This was the layer of dust facing the inside of the room, not the outside. No one had access to the room except me and my parents, who are not pranksters by any means. I show my mom and wipe it away. A couple weeks later, I'm studying in that bedroom. It's night and the lights are on, so the windows turn into mirrors. I look up from my bed towards that skull window, and I see in the reflection a white silhouette standing behind me. I hold my gaze for maybe 10 seconds, just trying to grasp what I'm looking at. I eventually turn my head around and see nothing. I look back at the window and see nothing in the reflection. I sleep on the couch for the next few nights. A couple more weeks later, I'm lying in bed listening to a late-night radio show. Lights are off. Looking through that same skull window, I see a similar white silhouette outside, stride past my window. I sleep on the couch for several more nights. Over the course of weeks, I see more things drawn on the dust of the windows. Generally, it's scribbles and shapes. I'm scared they might be some sort of curse or something, so I wipe them away. Out of curiosity, I put a sticky note on the window that says, "Please write below." Several days later, a perfect circle appears around the note, as if someone had put the base of a paint can up against the surface. This wasn't like the finger drawings I'd seen earlier, but one drawing did really stand out. I decided to recreate it in MS Paint before I wiped it away. Over the years, I've shared this with friends, colleagues, and they mostly come to the same conclusion as I did before I tell them my interpretation. For the majority of high school, I slept with the light on. I avoided that side of the house like the plague. Little things here and there, but nothing huge. Until it's senior year of high school. I'm in the living room with my mother watching TV, and the clothes dryer finishes. This dryer is directly down the hallway from the spooky room. I suck it up and head over to empty the machine, getting my usual feeling of immense dread and paranoia as I enter that side of the house. I bend over and start unloading the laundry, and my mind goes blank, and I lose control over my motor functions. My arms go limp, and beyond my control, my body stands up, and I hear a masculine voice take a deep breath and hiss in my ear. I immediately regain control of my body, and I get the hell out of there. Around that time period, my aunt comes to stay with us for a month or two. She has no idea what I've experienced there. But literally on her first day there, the bathroom door slams hard on her, and she immediately has us smudge the house to ward off whatever's there. I've experienced other paranormal things elsewhere, and I've had a couple weird experiences where I think my dead relatives warned me about a couple imminent deaths in the family, but nothing compares to the fear I felt in that house growing up. When I was younger, I used to take naps upstairs in our home, but by the time I was 8 years old, I absolutely refused to go upstairs. The upstairs had 2 large closets. They ran from one side of the upstairs all the way to the other side on both sides. It was essentially a crawl space that was maybe 30 feet long. It started one day when a friend and I went crawling from one side to the other with flashlights like kids normally do. Then I saw a girl sitting there in the corner acting like she wanted to play with us. I know a lot of people say when they see a ghost, they aren't scared, just interested. Nope. I was beyond terrified. This girl looked normal, had blonde hair, a nice dress, and seemed friendly. I stayed silent, kept crawling behind my friend, and got out of the closet. I told him what I saw in there. He said he didn't see it, but felt like he didn't want to go back in. Then my parents would occasionally send me upstairs to get something, and when I would get up there, I would see the doors swing open, as if they were trying to get me to come inside. I would lose toys and wouldn't be able to find them anywhere. Suddenly my parents would be fishing out Christmas presents out of the attic, and we would find some of my toys in there. I remember being 8 years old. My parents are asleep still in the morning, and I leashed up my dog to go take on the monster in the attic. My dog, usually up for anything, refused to go off the top step into the attic. My parents never believed me with all the weird things that happened in there. I would get blamed for things that happened all over the house. Leaving lights on, toys all over, things I knew I didn't do. Well, anyway, we move out of there when I am 10. Not a week passes before the new owners call us up and ask if the house is haunted. Their daughter sleeps upstairs. She said that she had been playing with a blonde-haired girl at night. My parents laughed at how crazy these new homeowners must be. To make an already long story short, the girl started appearing in other parts of the house for them. They kept in contact with us. They would look over while watching TV and see the girl sitting on their daughter's lap, etc. They decided to look up on the past owners of the house and found an old dressmaker that lived there. And, yep, a picture of the little girl wearing one of the ladies' dresses. The family that moved in there was absolutely torn apart by the events. They got divorced. The dad stayed living there and ended up taking his own life in that house. Our house was abandoned for 2 years before we bought it. When we went for the viewing, there was a bedroom closet that was padlocked shut. Think of a barn door latch with a lock through it. The realtor said they had no key and we couldn't open it unless we bought it. Well, we ended up buying it, and priority number 1 was opening that door. After a few minutes with a pry door, we get in to reveal a child's play area. Bright colored walls, glow in the dark, stick on stars and planets cover the ceiling, checkered tile for the floor. No lights, no air vents, no windows. My little brother chimes in, "Welp, this must be where they kept the kids before they died." Fast forward through 3 months of renovations to when we move in. The loft area has a daylight sensing, motion sensor light, as there was no easy way to install a switch. The light comes on by itself, all hours of the day. No matter what way we position the sensor, it randomly trips and we jokingly shout out, "Will you darn kids quit running in the house?" That's usually the last time it comes on that day. A year into living there, we have turned the creepy closet bedroom into our computer room. We leave for work at the same time each day, but arrive home about 2 hours apart. I get a call from a very confused wife one day, asking why I had come back home after we had left together. I did not go back home. Upon returning from work, she was greeted by our computer room chair in our kitchen. The chair had to travel through 2 doorways, down a hallway, and a flight of stairs to reach the kitchen. Seemingly by itself. We thought it was odd but blamed the dead kids. Those heathenistic kids. About 6 months after that, we have our last big doozy of an event for a while. We go to bed one night to a house in perfect order. Upon waking, we find that all of our kitchen knives have been removed from the butcher block. In their place, all of our butter knives. The sharp, dangerous knives have been placed behind the kitchen sink instead. Neither of us had moved them. We both were pretty freaked out and spent the whole day away from the house trying to sort it out. We decided we were being unreasonable and went home to forget the ordeal. Ghosts aren't real, and there weren't actually any kids who died there. I'm talking to the neighbor one day, and he confirms that no kids died in the house. a grown man had. The room with the creepy closet was the room where the previous owner's brother committed suicide. When his wife left and they failed to work it out, he couldn't handle life anymore, cut his wrists and bled out. The previous owner kept living there afterwards, but upon finding out he was foreclosed on, attempted suicide in the same room. His children found him, and he lived. Later that year, our family grows. The rooms all get shuffled to make room for baby. That creepy closet room, it gets emptied. The weird things all stopped happening. To this day, 9 years later, that room is only used for storage. My 4-year-old son plays in there occasionally, but even in the daytime with all the light the window lets into the bedroom, he turns every light on. When asked why, he just said, "It makes it less scary to play there." When I was 9, my family and I moved into a house just inside the city limits of a town in Tennessee. My room had 2 doors connecting to the kitchen and the living room, obviously a dining room converted into a bedroom, and I also had a fireplace and a mantle in there, which was really cool. My room was the only one downstairs. My 2 brothers and my parents all had rooms upstairs, so I could pretty much do as I pleased downstairs and not get caught. Anyway, one night I was laying in bed watching TV, and I kept hearing something just outside the door leading from my room into the living room. I tried to ignore it and blamed it on my mind playing tricks on me, but the sound persisted. I managed to muster up the courage to investigate. I creeped up to the door and opened it slowly. My little brother's Fisher-Price piano guitar was laying in the middle of the living room. The light from the Christmas tree gave me a lot of comfort, but the fact that I picked up my little brother's toys before going to bed was unsettling. I picked it up and put it in his toy box and went back to bed. I had laid back down and got comfortable again when I heard that same sound. I turned down the volume on my TV and heard that it was music. I was petrified. I opened the door again and peeked out, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My little brother's toy was in the middle of the living room. Again, and it was lighting up and playing music. I walked over to it and picked it up when it stopped. The first thing that came to my mind was take the batteries out and go tell my parents immediately. But when I flipped it over, there weren't any batteries in it to begin with. We lived there for another 2 years after that. Numerous unexplainable things continued to happen in that place. Whatever it was that was in there drove us out of that house and stayed with me even till this day.